Testing.
Okay, welcome everyone. Well, this session is called A Call to Arms. That's quite provocative, isn't it? Making room for the next gen directors. So that's what we're going to be talking about. Is there enough room? How can we make more room for the next generation of directors? And I'm Alex from Little Black Book. I'm Europe editor. And got an amazing panel today of four people who are from production companies, hopefully making that room and making sure the right next-gen directors come up and get their due, get celebrated and get their chance to shine. So, got a brilliant panel. We have Juliette Larthe from Prettybird. We've got Martin Roker from Black Dog. We've got Bellil from Stink. And we've got Ben Schneider from Radical Media. Woo! So, all of you work with directors all the time. It's easy. It's good to start with the fundamentals. What are the biggest challenges for directors trying to progress and move on with their careers to that next level? Who wants to kick off? Hannah, you look keen. Go for it.
I can jump in. So, I think it's a really confusing landscape. I think someone that's coming in from outside, it can be quite a labyrinth of decisions. There's loads of different pathways. There's no clear signposting for people. And there's so many layers of bureaucracy and options. I think that is a huge thing. And I think it's also hugely saturated as well. Defining your tone of voice and having a distinct signature is getting increasingly challenging. Those are some first thoughts.
What factors do you think are driving that and making it more challenging? What factors do you think are driving that and making it more challenging for people to find their space in all the noise?
Well, because the amount of ways in has just sort of increased, and I think increasingly, like the traditional model of getting signed by a production company and having a director's rep and kind of going through that traditional route is no longer really necessarily relevant. It reflects, an old-fashioned sort of patriotic model, and lots of people are kind of want to debunk that as well. So, remaining independent, for instance, is something that a lot of people want to do these days, and not attach and not be kind of committed and not be, completely locked in to one company as well. So that kind of muddies the water. It also, it depends on people's careers, but there's no one way.
Yeah, I was going to say as well, like you said, it's sort of like a flat world, these days, and we do get a lot of emails from directors, and we do look at them, but I also think that the role of agents did somehow help quite a lot of people sort of get on that map, but it's also the initiative that they take themselves, like getting on Instagram, like showing the work and reaching out, and following up, and just getting yourself out there. So it takes a certain amount of courage and determination, also initiative to do your own thing, not to wait for like that project to be brought to you, but to initiate it maybe, and then it does take talent. We all know there's some candidates who just maybe aren't made for it, and then others are like, you see the email come in and you immediately go, okay, pick up the phone and call them, and then from there usually it takes investment, commitment, because when we've made like 4 or 5 short films, I think, last year with young directors, some of them self-financed, some of them we financed, and it's about getting that reel to a certain place and getting it seen by the right people, I guess, and ultimately it takes that sort of courage and leap of faith, you know, from the agency creative side as well. I mean, when we talk about advertising.
I suppose you're saying, wait, so it's clear that you've got to have a lot of, you know, a hustle to sort of put yourself out there, and the you know, the desire to really want to succeed as a director, and obviously you have to have the talent to back that up as well. But then there is obviously a quite a big category of directors out there who have both the talent and the hustle, and who, for whatever reason, can't get to where they sort of deserve to be. What would you say, maybe one of the other two hasn't spoken yet, but what would you say are the reasons people get stuck in that place?
I think there hasn't been enough universal democratic access to everybody to be able to be like, you never find a person of colour who's a shit director. Do you know what I mean? There isn't been that availability to people. You know, everybody, there's such a level of excellence as a woman that you have to perform within this industry still, you know, even though obviously in the last 6 years we've done so well at it. I think, like, I mean, personally, I've only ever worked with people who work anyway. You know, we just help strategize and help elevate what somebody's doing to the next level. But to be honest, most people would be able to work, it's just would they be able to work at the levels, and where we, you know, it's strategizing, it's having that alchemy of bringing people together so as you create you know, something exciting, you know, like the most random thing, like the Daniels turning down that Little Nas X video meant that it gave an opportunity to Calmatic to do it, and therefore he creates the biggest, you know, music video on the planet. You know, and that was great that those serendipitous moments happen. But initially, it wouldn't have happened had that access not been made available. And also him being in a place where he could take that on. But at the level that you have to be today, you know, I just think it's, you know, there isn't enough people in, like, I mean, you just have to just look at this room when you consider like 30% of our population is, you know, an ethnic minority, and then you look at this room and we haven't even got that in here, which goes to show that we're supposed to be the leaders in our culture, and we're the people who are affecting all the trends in what we do, so therefore there has to be so much more work in order to get access. You're saying about signing people. People don't get signed unless they've got experience, and you've only got experience if you've been the runner on set, if you've been able to find out what area you want to go to within the industry, whether it's writing, whether it's like, you know, being the cinematographer, whatever it might be. You know, that we've all worked with directors who have been cinematographers, who have been art directors, who have been, well, maybe not everybody. I am sort of probably the grandma in the group, do you know what I mean? But, you know, it's that whole, I think this is the most exciting time it's ever been. Like, you know, Hannah was saying about the repping. Like, when I started, it was like you as a producer had to get your director work.
Right, yeah.
You didn't have a rep. It's like your director was as successful as you could bring them work, basically. It was a much different thing. And you got other directors to vouch for the younger directors, unless you spent an enormous amount of money, going back to what, you know, saying about spending money on building reels for directors. Yeah. That's also a way of, you know, that's what some people do. I've never had that kind of, I've never done enough work that's been commercially viable to the extent where I've had a huge pocket of funds in order to support people in that way.
Right, that's an interesting one, because the whole developing of directors, it's, I think it's quite, it seems to me that it's quite, every production company has quite a unique approach to how that is done, to how you take a director who's at this level working, you know, they've already built up experience, as you say, like you're not going to sign a director who's not done some great stuff already, really. But getting them to the next level and proving to clients and to commissioners and, you know, agencies is the tough battle, I would imagine. I mean, Martin, you haven't said anything yet. What do you think is maybe the key to the way you do it at Black Dog?
Well, it's like you said, it's like investment is quite a big challenge, isn't it? It's like, how much time can you invest in a young talent? You know, because monetary does come into it. You know, maybe they've got such you know, they've got a few pieces of work, but they're not making money for the actual company, so it's quite hard to invest sometimes. So you put all the effort from a, you know, from an employee, sort of the production company is the monetary thing. You know, you put all your efforts into it to build people's reels, to get the kind of work that they want. You know, sometimes you lose money on it as well, so you kind of...
Or you back the wrong horse.
What's that?
Back the
Oh,
wrong
horse, yeah. Or the project comes that bad, and you're like, oh God, I'm going to get done for this one.
It's definitely hit and miss.
Definitely not been there. So yeah, I mean, yeah.
So it's a bit of a punt, but it's sort of, you have to pump the resources into the behind the directors that
hugely.
you
Like
believe in.
young talent needs a lot of, you know, a lot of people around them to support them. But it's good. It's good. Everyone's got the energy to do that.
Yeah.
But it's just, it is sometimes quite exhausting as well. At the same time, when you've got other projects and directors on the roster, when you've got, you know.
Yeah, totally. Hannah, did you have something to?
Oh, I was just going to say, I mean, I'm in an extremely privileged position at Stink. I head up a department called Stink Rising, and it's a dedicated resource purely for development. I mean, we're just so lucky. It's like there's no real commercial or financial burdens on the department. The remit is purely to go and find talent and develop and focus on work and excellence. And I have a dedicated team of people, like an entire production desk, supporting me in that mission. And it's just truly incredible, really. And it's a model that, like, I really want to champion. I really want to, you know, let everyone know that's what we're doing, because it's special, and it's tough as well, because it is about making commitments to people, and, you know, a lot of it is rolling the dice, and a lot of it is about instinct and gut feeling, and it's still, you know, quite a new thing for me. I've been doing it for just over a year, but yeah, it's
curious, like when you launched it first, you know, it's obviously dedicated and it's a little bit different from what we do, because we have production companies, and within that we build young talent and sort of absorb it, you know. But once you have this, you also communicate to the outside world, you've got this department. So what was the agency response? Do people come to you and say, thanks for being there, now show me what you got? Or?
Well, the department was launched about 2.5 years ago, and we've got some real success stories. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you have heard about directors such as Matilda Finn and Felix Brady, and they've, you know, the model is around 18 months incubation period between people coming in and then moving on to the main films commercials roster, and a lot of the time we get approached by agencies for, you know, non-for-profit work and development work, but it's mainly a space for personal projects, art commissions, music videos, and it's more of a space to kind of, you know, really have close development, nurturing, making mistakes, being able to make mistakes, I think, being able to take risks, and giving people the space to grow and not rushing into that commercial environment too quickly.
What's the key to sort of protecting that risk-taking? Because you're
making a
business
lot
and
of
you have to
money
make
in other
money.
adverts. Not on the other
Balance
side of
in
the
the
arm. Yeah.
I guess it's all a balance. Yeah.
I mean, let's not go there, shall we? But, you know, you don't get one without the other. And, you know, and I really, you know, I admire that area, and I admire all sorts of things. It's just whether you do it as a designated company within a company,
Sure.
or you do it within the company anyway. I mean, all of us develop and have developed, you know, some of the most phenomenal talent that there is on the planet today. So
If you don't, you get left
yeah.
behind, right? I mean, you constantly have to reinvent what you are and the roster you represent. So I feel like even during 2020, we had some stuff lined up. Wasn't going so well, right, the business, but then we kept doing them, because you have to take that leap of faith, you know. And I think, there's a social media moment. There's certainly benefits you get from it, no matter how short-lived it is or whether you're going to end up marrying that person, spending the rest of your life with this director on your roster. But then there's also this mutual trust that you build, If you do invest, I think they're going to also be quite loyal at least for some time. 6 months.
I don't know. I just think.
How do you nurture loyalty in your directors?
Look, I'm like the old bitter lady in the corner, aren't I? But I just think, I think it's different. I think different directors, some directors are incredibly talented and have like absolutely amazing critical mass of being able to execute a project, but if they haven't been through any kind of personal pain, they have no ability to add that absolutely exquisite beauty to a project sometimes that you can only get from having the ability to have extreme empathy. And empathy is born out of generally people who have been through something in their lives that is not ordinary, and I think that really shows, and I see that and also people's attitude. Like some of the people that you work with, sometimes you want to do more for the person who's just really nice and grateful and thankful. And what a gift it is when you get someone who's incredibly talented and they're really nice, grateful and thankful. Then it's like,
winner, isn't it?
You're a win-win-win, and you literally will be up till 4 a.m. every fucking day for a year, even at 52. Do you know what I mean? When you should be resting on your laurels and thinking, oh yeah, maybe my time is done, I need to think about retirement, or something like that. That is the thing that drives you. It drives all of us, is that sort of making something that's so, that you feel like is going to make a bit of a difference, that's going to be some level of a social change. I mean, that is much more of a driving factor, I think, because financially, I think we now know that actually money means it's a means to an end, as they say, is like only if you're in the middle zone of making money does it mean you're happy. Like anyone who earns an extreme amount of money, it doesn't really affect their happiness at all. It just becomes part of the stress of it all. And I don't think if it was financially driven all the time, that we would make the kind of work that we end up making.
That's interesting, because we've been talking about supporting directors and giving them what they need to develop, and it can be quite easy to look at that materially, but emotionally it seems like you need to make an emotional investment in a person for them
Massively.
to flourish.
Hugely, yeah. Always, every single project, every single thing you get involved in with a director, you know it's going to be emotionally attached all the way through to the bitter end. And it's a good emotional attach because, what comes out of a brilliant project is just like fantastic. Thank God we did this,
And Juliette, you were talking about the sort of, when you can work with someone who's brilliant and nice and grateful, and there's the sort of cliche of the prima donna director that we had, the big
there is still quite a lot of that, and also if the work doesn't come out very good, you suddenly start changing your mind a little bit.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? you're like, okay. But obviously if they're really awful, then somehow it taints the job. I mean, sometimes jobs are really, really hard, and doesn't matter, just as long as people are nice with it as well, it's sort of, I don't mean nice as in like, they might bring me a cake at tea time or something, something to make it a bit sweeter, or send me, like they've graffitied my name on the set or something. I'm just talking about things that have happened in the last week that have made me think, oh, now you're my favourite. Oh, no, you're my favourite. Oh, no, you're really my favourite. That sort of...
But do you all have a sense of whether the pool of potential directors out there is changing in terms of characteristics, in terms of personalities? Like you say, we talk about, are there more of those people around who are sort of kinder and more emotionally sort of, I don't know, easy to work with, or is it a case of, because I always have this idea that there's the sort of 90s peak of the sort of directing egos, and that those are the people who are sort of on their way out of the industry, hopefully.
There's a lot of characters who don't just do anything for it anymore,
Right.
Like our generation was like, okay, I'm going to dedicate my life to this, and I'm going to play the game and shut up when I have to. But nowadays, I think that the talent that has talent, there has more courage to draw the line, to say, look, I'm comfortable doing this, or, and I'm not comfortable doing this. And by the way, if we are doing it, we need to work a certain way. LGBTQ, diversity on set, so there's many more layers now with some of the very brilliant talent that you have to tick, and it's not always easy.
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of skirted around talking about diversity, but I think we should, sort of on the nose, really say.
I think it should be called inclusivity, especially because diversity is supposed to also include women, and it's like 50% of the population.
Yeah.
It just really gets my goat. So we run inclusive sets, as do I think everybody, we run inclusive sets. And that has to be a part of how we work today. And without that, you not going to get progress. But who knows what the future holds? When you consider that it's only now, even 6 years ago, 3% of the industry directing was women. Mm-hmm. So now that's increased. We don't even know, because everything I studied in school was written by a man. Everything I studied there was nothing I learnt coming into this industry that wasn't written, created, directed by a straight white man. Right. So when, and I'm obviously older than a lot of people in this room, so we don't even know really if narrative is going to be a beginning, middle and an end, fundamentally. Who constructed that? It wasn't me. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't, who knows how it will be. So we're really at this sort of critical, exciting time where anything is possible, especially with the onset of all the different formats and with AI and with AR and all these different things. It's just working out how we break it open so as it is we get to hear more stories. Because,
What are the challenges in making sure that, we're primarily talking about directors here, but making sure that you are representing the right mixture of people with different experiences and not just the ones who have the chance. Yeah?
You have to pay people. It's like when I started, I had to work for free. I signed on, I was on the dole. We were talking about this earlier. And I had to work for production companies. For 4 years, I didn't earn. You can't do that today. And equity has to be. You can't also employ people from low socioeconomic backgrounds and then expect them to work on your shoots for nothing or next to nothing or anything like that. And I think our industry has actually been really good at paying. Now it's better. It's just making sure that there is it should be mandatory that we are not, that you have trainees on set.
Yeah. I mean, as production companies, I'm sure you all want to do that. What are the barriers to doing it? Is it just the fact that you'll have clients that will, or is it just budget and you just have to say, I'm not doing it for that budget?
Well, not to bring it back down to quotas, because I think we don't want to talk about numbers, but I think it does install accountability, and that's something that I spent lots of time working with Juliette, and that's something that I learned with you. It's like, for instance, targets of 50-50. So, we have ambitions for every set that we run to have 50% of the crew to be from a diverse background, be that BIPOC, be that a gender diversity, be that socioeconomic. A lot of that information is self-declared, so it is quite hard to measure specifically, but that's our ambition and that's our intention across every set, and then we do averages across, the numbers, the number crunching side of it is, it's important for accountability, just internally. And I was speaking to the APA earlier, and there's going to be like a wider kind of rollout on, how to supporting production companies on how to action that. And I think, it's, again, that's like that figure is a blue sky figure, but it's, at least we're having conversations when we're crewing up every day. It's always a conversation. Like I remember calling up a DOP agent a few years ago and asking for a black cinematographer, and they told me that I couldn't do that. And it's just interesting how much the conversation has changed, in that time. And yeah.
I mean, I'd like maybe one of you could come in on this and talk about maybe some of the. It sounds like at some point, if you have values that you want to progress the industry, you have to have difficult conversations with someone, with probably quite a few people. Have any of you had a recent sort of difficult conversation that's resulted in?
Yeah, I've had a client.
Yeah.
I've had a client say they absolutely categorically wouldn't pay themselves for me to give training access to a single person.
So what do you do in that situation? Say, I'm
Paid
not
for
working.
it myself.
Oh.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what else am I going to do? I'm not going to have you tell me I can't do that.
Right. Yeah. And so it's. I suppose,
Well, not pay for it myself. Like job
as a
paid for
company,
it.
yeah.
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 I mean, I do pay for shit, but that isn't one of the things I paid for. But I would, if it came down to it. You know, I think a principle is only a principle when it costs you something. Do you know what I mean? Sure. And that is where I stand. That's my line in the sand.
I suppose there's another on the. There's a hypothetical production company out there who, you know, doesn't really have any morals and is just chasing the money. Maybe they're not hypothetical, but they're not on this stage. You know, I mean, is there an argument to make that those companies just won't be viable because they're going to get stale because you have to be bringing in new talent, different talent?
I don't think they think of it like that, though. I think people genuinely believe that you don't need to provide extra access because true access, like great people will rise no matter what. And that's more that kind of thinking rather than them being, you know, misogynistic. Well, maybe they are, but do you know what I mean? I think inherently they don't see it in an empathetic or in trying to help be a part of a cultural shift. They just see as like, well, if you're good, you're good. You know, if you're good, I'll work with you, and if you're not, then I won't. Sort of thing. They're like it's very, very sort of ordained rather than them being like, it's not complicated for them. They have the privilege of not having to look at the complication of a situation or putting themselves in an awkward place where they might have to work a bit harder.
And sorry, Martin.
No, I was going to say totally that, and you know, it doesn't take much for any one of us on this panel just to have, you know, the initiatives that are out there. There's like, you know, People Dem Collective. There's like loads of those kind of foundations that you can easily tap into. Easily, you know, it doesn't cost much at all. It's like a runner's, you know, it's what costs a runner, you know? It's nothing at all. For an extra pair of hands on set, mentoring a director, mentoring a producer, whatever they want to get into, it doesn't cost a lot. It really doesn't. It's a really easy thing to do.
I was going to say there is a lot of great initiatives out there, like really especially talking about young directors rather than every crew and everything else. You know, Young Directors Awards, you know, schemes that you can apply for. There's quite a lot out there for directors to engage with, you know, but maybe we should take that, because on the inclusivity level, there's a lot more now. The mentorship program, the APA is organizing it, we're all taking part of it, and we're all making conscious efforts to improve, you know, the way we run the sets, you know. So maybe we need that, because in Germany we've got a couple of agencies, they have so-called Search of Excellence programs where there's no money, but they have clients, you know. It's like 20K, you know, for, you know, some idea the creatives wanted to submit to an award, you know. And those are the kind of opportunities that agencies can give for those young talent to maybe get a job or, you know, build their reel. So on a systemic level, maybe we need to encourage more agencies to create that space. Not, you know, when we're talking about directors and giving them a chance, once you get on the radar of certain people, you know, you still need to get that you know, trust by the agency. So, but the jobs out there, they're pretty sort of sparse, you know, that sort of allow for like some risk taking, maybe. Yeah.
I mean, what does that take from? Because I suppose being the agency, sort of devil's advocate there, you know, if you're a sort of young team and you've got this script written and it's like a huge opportunity, it's your first big TV spot or something, you've got to suggest directors, if you really want a newer director who's going to bring something fresh, it's a bigger risk for you to go to your.
But on those projects, there's less pressure maybe,
Yeah.
and then they will come to me and say, Ben, who do you have? And they do trust me on that. If I say, look,
Right.
this guy doesn't have it on the reel yet, but trust me on this, sometimes then you get that chance, you
Right.
know? And we did have that in the past where it actually went really well, and off they go from there.
So how do you nurture relationships like that and sort of, make sure that people feel that you'll have their back if they're.
Well, it's so much about the EP's vote of confidence in
Right,
the
yeah.
director, and the infrastructure and network within the production company and the exec that's putting them forward. Because without that infrastructure and support system, it couldn't happen. So I guess the EP is the important part of that puzzle, isn't it? And the relationship there.
But then from a freelance director's point of view, you haven't got that structure.
Right.
Which is why being at a production company gives you that leverage, like you're saying, to bump up to the next level.
Right. Yeah, that makes perfect sense to have that. Yep. Have that structure behind you, the backing. But I wanted to go to something maybe. I mean, Juliette, you touched earlier on the amazing story of Calmatic getting the Lil Nas X video, which is a moment that just crystallized and became something brilliant. I would love it if the rest of you had something, an inspiring little story to share of, when someone's taken a chance on a different director and it's just gone brilliantly and, allowed that director to really reach their potential. It's a tough one to put you on the spot on.
No, yeah. Well,
it doesn't have to be a job that you worked on. It could just be something you admire.
I think going off that question, I think one of the projects that we did at Black Dog was a GQ Men of the Year Awards, and it was the first online awards. So it's like an hour length awards with different awardees, and they had individual films for those winners. And I think one of the films for Patrick Hutchison, which was done by Tom Dream in the audience, he brought on, he's a very advocate with a foundation called People Dem Collective. Right. So he brought, there was 3 of them on set, one of them runner, one Shadow Tom, and the other one was a photographer called Sterling. And he was just doing BTS and stuff like that. Once you delivered all the BTS stuff, they loved one of the images. So one of those images got printed into the GQ magazine, along with all that story. So that sort of longevity from having mentoring, do you know what I mean? So, that's a really good story all the way through to that sort of moment.
So you put in the groundwork and you have the...
Well, yeah, it's just a really nice thing to see, someone like that to have one of their print photos in a GQ magazine. It's like, it's great.
Yeah, it's lovely. I mean, I suppose it's allowing the landscape to be there, that those little moments of serendipity can happen. Like that little jump can be made because the raw materials are there in place, and there's a production company you're kind of holding them together. Do either of you have anything like along those lines, or?
Well, funny enough, I think we share that client.
Yeah, we kind of had a little powwow before.
Oh, yeah,
We've got a particular...
But we had one particular case with Huawei, where different story, but young directors didn't really have anything, and our common friend Avika, right, and Logan and those guys, they just gave them the job, but it was based on this relationship, and it was based on something really interesting on their reel. And, it became a repeat client, and from there, the guys just, Jonas and Julian, took off, so that was one case. There's some smaller ones where, we just did something with Alexander Kühn. He's an up-and-coming director from Germany. He's won some YDAs, and he had an idea for a charity brand, which didn't exist, so it was about drinking and alcohol in families and how it's handled. So we developed the script together, shot it, and then pitched it to clients, charity clients, and partnered up with one, and it's launched, and now it's winning awards. So That's a positive example.
Yeah, totally.
But the reason why we signed Alexander was, he did have a very high potential and already has a great reel and is a great storyteller. So for us, it didn't feel like a huge risk to take. It was just that sort of first piece of work.
Right. If you believe, I guess it's not a risk. You just need to convince people and keep plugging away until it happens. I'm kind of aware that I know a lot of the people in this room will probably have questions for the panel, especially as there's 4 people to answer them. I don't know if there's a spare microphone or if one of you has to give one up. Maybe I haven't prepared anyone to.
I have sanitizer as well.
Yeah. Oh, is that not allowed? Yeah.
No, I have sanitizer. We can Reeves before.
That's fine. Yeah, maybe I'll get up and run around, do it DIY. Are we allowed to do a roving mic? Is that possible? Oh. I can just repeat the question. Yeah, no problem. Does anyone have a question? That would help. Go ahead.
And there is no systemic thing to support it. I don't know if any.
So just to repeat your question on the microphone. So it's basically that you can do loads as a production company. It has to come from somewhere else, that someone has to take the punt from an agency or from a record label or whatever. Yeah, someone with the money has it. So to you guys, who do you think has the most responsibility to, make those opportunities happen?
Well, isn't it just about mandating the pitch pool in the same way that we, the triple bid system, having a woman in each pitch? Shouldn't we be looking at as an industry extending that out now in light of the last couple of years? There should be gender diversity in there, and there should also be BIPOC. It should just be something that's standardized across all bidding. I mean, that seems like the easiest way to just get everyone on board with it.
It's also when we have an opportunity, we have a board to place a director, sometimes they don't ask for anybody specific and you put people forward, There's a certain budget range. You have your big budgets and your medium budgets, and then there's shit budgets. And then, even the small ones, and a lot of people these days, or even during the pandemic, were quite desperate. They put up their A-listers for even medium-sized budgets, and especially with the small ones, I decided to just take them, the ones that that need work and fit the brief, and leave out the bigger ones and just give it a shot. If it happens, great. If it doesn't, then so be it. We don't need that 120 job, but we would do it if it serves 2 purposes, Doing the job, also supporting a director, and you're not making a lot of money on that anyway.
So I suppose your answer to the question there is sort of, you can only control what you do as a company in response to
Yes, it's
the opportunities that are out there. You can't make other people give you the opportunities, so you have to make some tough decisions. Right. Yeah. Come on, panel. Yeah, do you want the headset?
We were going to do this and actually make room physically for you to come up and help us out. But, yeah. Thanks, Lee.
I wouldn't mind. I think the organisers might. I'm not going to attempt to repeat that brilliant point. Yeah.
But Antoinette, is it a TV station you want? Okay.
Yeah. I'd give you a whole channel. Yeah. Network. Yeah, absolutely, categorically, and I think that's the whole. The thing is, it's like everyone's got to look at their companies and see, like, you know, it's like, first of all, it begins at home. How does your company look? What is the makeup of your company? And whether, you know, I mean, I've had it, like, we are black owned, but it's been, you know, I've had it being told that it's black owned but white run, which isn't, you know, obviously I am white, but so that's not a lie. But, you know, but, you know, I mean, but it's got to be said that, like, you know, I do have that, you know, in the backbone of the company, and that is who I know stands. And you know, I've worked with the people who own the company for, you know, prior to working, you know, with them in the incantation that we now work together. So it's like, I feel that as long, if you can, I keep people close to, like, I generally keep the people close because there isn't enough people in this industry. It's like, you know, obviously I've never been on an all-male set because I'm a woman. So any set I've been on, might have been the only woman, but you know, that is it. And the industry has exponentially changed from when I started, but that doesn't make any difference. You know, Antoinette started around about the same time as me. So it's like, I think that is the thing, is people have been beating this drum for such a long time, and I just can't have another conversation about it. I just want to see action. Just only want to see action. I don't want to hear again how we've got to do something. I just want to see it, and you're only going to see it when you see representation everywhere. Like, I want to go on set, and if you have only got, you know, obviously it's so busy out there, you can't even get a bloody Chapman dolly, you know, for your shoot. So we know that, but there are tons of schools out there.
Yeah.
So you can, with a week's notice, you can get CVs from a school to get people on your set in order to provide opportunities and access. And that's where it is. Though I don't know how it works in Germany, because apparently you're not allowed to do that.
To what, sorry?
Nothing else.
I mean, I can only say you guys in the UK, and not to say that it's there or, you know, not to be improved, but in my experience, it's so much better than Germany, you know. I mean, it's just by nature alone of London and what kind of melting pot it is.
What do you mean? Are you telling me it's better in Germany for
No,
inclusivity?
it's definitely much better
Oh,
here,
yeah, I was
you
gonna
know.
say.
Yeah, oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
You see that?
That would be a dangerous statement.
No, it's a totally different world. That's why I'm here, guys.
I don't know how to. After you've made the point of not wanting to talk about it anymore, it seems a bit. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm doing it.
But then, I mean, you look at some of the channels, like you look at things like SBTV and places like that, where the work is, you know, it's obvious, but there's a whole, you know, it's like we didn't provide access, so people are going to provide their own access.
Right.
Exactly.
It's going to be there anyway, and it's going to be bigger and it's going to be better. Look at Tim and Barry's, just Jam TV. Look at all these things, which is where Akinola grew up out of. You know, you know, if we don't provide it, it will happen, and we'll be the ones looking like dumb and stupid because we haven't, you know, embraced and encouraged and been a part of it. And who wants us, you know, a society that is so divided? You want to be, it wants to be, because it feels so much better. It feels so much more fun, you know, isn't it? It's like.
That's a nice positive note to end on, I think. If it's more fun, so let's have more fun and do it that way.
I just want to have fun all the time.
Yeah, it's all about fun. Okay, well, I think that might be quite a nice place to wrap it up. Thank you so much for sharing all your very passionate thoughts. And thanks for coming along.